Welcome to I Support Your Business show with your host and host Mithil, a pod made exclusively to share the journey of our fellow community members of I Support Your Business Indo-Canadian community to the world. The main aim of our community is to practice the power of giving, facilitate collaborations and partnerships, and help connect people on a global platform. As a host, being the president of the community for this year, as well as the founder and chief content alchemist of VH Tribe Content Lab, I help solopreneurs, artists, and coaches build their business online organically through content marketing. Today, we have a wonderful member from our community and a very good friend of mine. Let's welcome on the show none other than Satish. Hi,
Hey,
Satish.
hi. I'm Mithil, and thank you so much for having me here.
Pleasure is all ours. So, Satish, like I know you from a very long time and super excited to have you as a guest. And let's go ahead with our show. So, can you share with us your childhood?
Sure. So I think what I would call is this has been a journey from a being a solo child to be a solo entrepreneur. So it's been interesting 45 years of my life now. As I recount, and I think my childhood again. I think I was quite well taken care of. I was a studious kid, always following what my parents expected from me, and I think they also gave back with a lot of love and care and uh, good insights about living a simple middle class life with not many aspirations. But I think this whole seed of doing something extra, doing something innovative. I guess that was very much there even when I was in my junior classes, right? So I do remember that even when I was in my class fifth, I tried to launch a local club amongst our friends out there, and I kind of went out and put up those, made my own, typed my own small paper slips, saying that why don't you come and join my club, and put it in into everyone's garage boxes, even though I didn't know them. Right. So the idea was to kind of create something together and build a community of people doing something interesting stuff. So I think even when the world might not have heard about community as such as we know it today, I think those the intention of doing that, the intention of creating something new, unique, with people, was always there. So I'm again giving one more example. When I was in my graduation college, it was I who thought about kind of. I mean, though we had our official newsletter, but it was very dead, and it was something which was very kind of official looking kind of a thing. So I came out with a parallel newsletter, which the students used to call as a rebellious newsletter in the college, right? Which is rebelling against the norm of a typical college newsletter. So we used to make it very interesting. We also used to organize offsite events in the college in regard to that newsletter, in order to promote that newsletter. So those were some interesting things, which I think kind of gave birth to me, of being an entrepreneur or doing something different, doing something off the league, and trying to bring in new concepts as such in my given ecosystem, right? And I think that is how it all started. And I think this journey followed a very, very long time even now. I mean, I think that initial drive, that initial seed of trying to carve your own path uh, has really been my one of my driving forces even today, right? Yeah, and I mean, which is why, like, even when I was to make a career choice, and even though I was selected in an engineering college, I decided not to go for it, and instead went ahead for business studies, because I thought that my passion lies in business somewhere, and I really wanted to do that, despite being a good scorer in science subjects. Right, I decided to again do a lateral shift and decided to study business after that. So I think there were a lot of interesting incidents out there, and I think I had a quite an adventurous childhood in that sense.
Wow, that's really awesome, I would say. And yes, it was an adventure. Lovely. So, Satish, can you share when and how did the professional journey start then?
Sure. I think so. Like typically, like any other middle class Indian dream, a dream of any parents. I did my schooling, went on to do my graduation in business studies, and then went on to do PGDM from Symbiosis, Pune, and then managed to get a job in PR and marketing communication. Did that for about 8 years of my early career. Did again working in both agency business as well as uh, uh, working with a corporate, right? So I worked with multiple peer firms, and then I worked with corporates like Apollo Tires, handling the entire brand management portfolio. Did quite a bit of learning out there, try to understand how things work out, and then made a lateral shift after 8 years from marketing to finance sector. Got an opportunity to join a large real estate focused venture capital fund, and joined them as investor relations head, and slowly learned the ropes of how a fund works, how a fundraising works. Collaborated with multiple people at that point in time to help my company raise funding from amongst some leading bankers of India. So I think then joined India's first media fund, which was again a very untested asset class at that point in time. But again, as I told you that I'm always attracted some towards something which is unusual and something new. So that's why I left the real estate fund and joined the media fund, which again was a decision. Many people question that why are you shifting to an unknown asset class, right? But I said that's where my heart is, right? And I want to follow and I want to learn new things, right? So that is how it happened. Uh, and then I think so for first 10 years, uh, I had worked across PL and I had worked across two VC funds. And it was in 2010, almost after about a decade of my professional experience, that the entrepreneurial bug hit me. And I started to take my entrepreneurial journey from there on. So talking about that, what was happening at that time was, uh, you know, the whole category of startups, as we know today, was coming up. 2010 was the year when Flipkart had become one of the first startup to raise external funding, right? But then when I was looking at the scenario and I was looking at how markets are in India and how markets abroad are evolving, I noticed that while startup funding is a very common phenomenon in markets like Silicon Valley. India was just coming up to it right now. So I realized that if Indian entrepreneurs have to grow, you cannot grow with just 300 to 400 angel investors in such a large country, right? As compared to a market like US, where the market was small, but there were thousands of people who were investing into startups. So with that thought, uh, and simultaneously, what was happening was this entire concept of crowdfunding was also emerging, right? Wherein people were now able to raise funding, not necessarily from just those few hands, but even from their own fans, even from their own communities, right? And I think that was that whole democratic way of fundraising really appealed to me, right? And I thought that maybe this is the movement that we need to make it happen in India, right? Because that will enable more and more people to come in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and support upcoming ideas and upcoming dreams of these entrepreneurs. So with that, I think that whole bug of crowdfunding hit me hard, and I went ahead, talked to a Singapore-based company who have just launched crowdfunding in those markets, convinced them somehow to come to India, found an investor for myself, convinced him to pay some royalty fees to these guys so that they can be brought to India, and that's how the whole journey started, right? And I think what really helped was in the hindsight was because these guys were from Singapore, so these were Gora people, right? So when you bring a new concept in India and when Goras are associated with that, the media also automatically opens up to that, right? So that really helped me to build a lot of PR because they were keen to talk to these Singapore guys who are coming here with a new concept. And I think that's how I also got, वो किसी कहते हैं ना गंगा में हाथ धो लिया कि हाँ, I mean, I am the one who's bringing this concept to India. So that really helped out to break some doors for me, right? And So with that, we launched crowdfunding in India way back in 2010. Uh, the first platform lasted for about 1.5 years when I realized that maybe the idea was slightly beyond this time because uh, no matter how I feel about it, startups as an asset class was still very esoteric, right? There was time when people could adopt to it, people could understand this. So I took a break for about a year, worked with Pradeep Gupta, who was the co-founder of Indian Angel Network at that point in time, helped to mentor some of his investing companies, as well as launch an accelerator under his guidance. And then went back to crowdfunding in 2013, wherein I launched Catapult. And this time we did non-equity crowdfunding, and this lasted for about 5 years. Had a lot of fun building the whole concept of crowdfunding in India. Did India's one of the largest offline series of events to promote crowdfunding, which was promoted by Economic Times, Times of India, large set of investors. It was quite a fun ride, right? And got my exit from there in about 2017, about 5 years from my journey. Uh, Joined another category one AI fund. Again, worked with a fund for about 2 3 years. Help them to raise funding, help them to invest in few startups. And right now, I'm trying to build my own fifth venture as we speak.
Wow. So as a serial entrepreneur, I can I can see like your journey started from a different, like I would say, from a fund manager to understand about collaborations to now,
Yeah,
kind of evolving into different segments and touch pointing everyone. So
right.
definitely you just shared that how did you turn as an entrepreneur, but now the current since I know about the venture that you're working on called as the Fandora, so I was always wanted to ask you this question, Satish. Why did you name it Fandora?
Right. No, I think it happened because one, I think the whole idea was to uh, connect content creation and content consumption, right? And I always thought that the reason why creators are able to find a market because of their fans, but unfortunately, it is this category of fans which always remain passive, right? They never are able to get an active stake in what the creator is doing, right? They are just viewers, nothing else. When they are, and that's all they can do. So when I was conceptualizing Pandora, and I was saying that okay, and the whole business logic of Pandora, I would say, was a culmination of whatever I have learned throughout my journey so far, right? Be it helping independent creators to raise funding, be it crowdfunding, be it understanding media as an asset class, how to evaluate media, how to evaluate films, how to look at it from an investment point of view. And I think also my understanding of Web3, what is happening globally in the space of real world asset tokenization, right? And I think when I culminated all those points and blended in, that is how Pandora was born. So my whole thought of Pandora was a combination of fan engagement and Pandora of opportunities, right? Uh, so that's how Pandora came up as a name in my mind. That why don't I name it as Pandora? Because ultimately, what we're going to do is empower fans to kind of open up and create more opportunities for themselves as well as for the creators that they love to support. Right. So I think that's how the name Fandora came up in my mind.
Got it. I would love to go much more deeper into this. So, Satish, if you can share, what does Fandora actually do, and why did you think of starting this venture? I like you have
Sure.
touch pointed, but I want to go much more deeper into it.
Yeah, yeah. I think Fandora over the last year and a half that I'm building it, we haven't. I mean, we are now almost close to launching it finally, and I think it has gone through two, three pivots as a thought process, right? When I started it out, uh, I thought that this would become something like a stock exchange for creators, right? Wherein people would be able to invest in creators and just like I invest in a stock, I can invest in, let's say, a Mithil coin and a Mithil, depending on how his content is liked by people, whether that goes up, goes down. That coin will also go up and down in the market, right? From there, then we moved on to a next idea that can we use this as a as a licensing marketplace where people can give their content rights for various Web3 applications. So let's say we are working on this podcast, and let's say that we find that this podcast could be converted into an NFT or could be converted into any Web3 media. Let's say this podcast could be showcased in a metaverse, right? So tomorrow when the world goes to metaverse and they consume their content in a metaverse kind of an environment, that metaverse platform would need to take rights from you for this podcast to be showcased in that metaverse, right? Just like it happens today. Like today, if this podcast has to go on Netflix, and Netflix will obviously buy the rights from you, right? Because you are the one who creating this podcast. So similarly, that metaverse would need the Web3 rights of this podcast from you. So we thought that maybe Fandora would become a marketplace for creators to license their Web3 rights to the various Web3 makers, right? So let's say if I'm a creator and or let's say I'm Saruk Khan and I want to sell the Web3 rights of my character in Pathan to a metaverse or to a Web3 gaming or any of those Web3 applications, I can do that. So Web3 could become a additional right for me to to monetize on. And then eventually we moved on and tried to make it more simple. We said that let's just build a kind of a fractional investment platform where people can now invest in films and any kind of content IP, let's say music, books, art, sports IP. And whenever they invest, whatever part of investment that they're holding, that investment could be converted into a real world asset tokenization, a block. I mean, so basically, that investment gets minted onto a blockchain, and that blockchain data, which we call token, would have your representation or your part ownership of that content IP rights, right? And having said that, hence this token would become a token of value, which can then be further liquidated, fragmented, staked, or whatever possibilities are now evolving with your asset tokens in the market globally, right? So that's how the whole journey has evolved over some time. That's what we have built Pandora today for that. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to connect creators with potential investors. All right. So let's say that if today someone wants to make a film and they need to raise some money for that, they do not want to depend only on a limited number of studios as such, right? And they want to get funded by their fans so that they have a better control on their IP, right? They can do that through Fandora, wherein Fandora would, let's say, fraction the investment into, let's say, 100 to 200 pieces, 200 blocks. You as an individual investor can pick up a block, can invest in that movie, and can get pro rata returns on your money, right? Depending on what that film or that content IP piece monetizes on itself. So I think that's what the basic model in a very simple English is.
Wow, this is actually, I would say, very futuristic, but definitely, I think this is the future because
Yeah, because I
eventually,
think this is happening because I think even globally, a lot of platforms have now started emerging on this model. So you have models in Europe like film.io, filmtoken.io, right, which are trying to build this model, which are trying to make film funding more democratic and more participative, right? And I think I'm glad that there are other platforms which are coming up because that kind of shows and validates my idea that okay, now this asset class, content as an asset class, uh, this is the right time that this asset class can be open to a larger market because it's very funny that this entire content IP market globally is almost worth more than $300 billion, right? Even within India, this is worth more than 30 to $35 billion. I mean, India remains one of the world's largest content maker. But this entire market, even today, is very, very tightly controlled by just few studios or just few corporate networks, right? People do not have a chance to participate in this asset class. So the whole idea that we're doing and we're working at is to unlock this potential and enable more people to participate in this asset class. I think that's what Fundora is all about.
got it, got it. So, Satish, it's been a while that you have built Fandora and have progressed ahead, but I would love to take you back to the initial days. Can you share how were those initial days of establishing Fandora?
Oh yeah, I think initial days of establishing any idea are always a roller coaster ride, right? Because there are a lot of ups and downs that you go through your entire journey. Finding your equally passionate team members, trying to understand what product to launch, what kind of product features to have, uh, kind of trying to solve that uh, ever present problem of keeping yourself funded, right? Because only, I mean, it is only to a limit that you can bootstrap your venture, right? And you need external funding at some time to keep that engine running, right? So I think there have been several challenges. So far, I have managed to keep my head high. you know, I hope we'll be able to continue in this fashion. But yes, there have been challenges. There have been a lot of learnings. As I said, as I told you myself that the core idea itself has pivoted multiple times. I have worked with three, four various different tech teams as the product has evolved. Right? There have been sleepless nights, and there have been moments of a lot of excitement in what we're doing, what we're trying to build out here. So yeah, it has been a very interesting journey so far, and I think that has been a similar experience while building all my previous ventures. Right, there have been a lot of interesting experiences, like one. If I tell you that this was during my catapult days, which was my second venture, and I still remember that we were just on verge of closing our first seed funding, and on the same day, my other co-founder he developed cold feet. He said, "Ki boss, mujhe nahi karna. My family is insisting that I should marry and all, so I want to leave this venture now." So imagine that. That on the same day my investors wants to sign on a term sheet, my co-founder is saying that I will not want to continue with you guys. So I had to go back. Then we have to again restart the whole cycle because you cannot hide away this fact from your investors, right? It doesn't look fair, and you have to tell them that now, boss, I will become the solo founder till the time I find my another co-founder. So you take a call whether you want to still support me or not. But I think I was blessed, and I think those investors still took a bet on me, and they still invested in the company at that time. And I was able to get on board my next co-founder, but yeah, I think these things happen. I mean, these things are not in your control, and I think eventually, somewhere down the line, you need to build that hard skin.
I understand. I totally understand the journey of an entrepreneur, or I would say solopreneur, is not straight. It's
Yeah.
always a roller coaster. And you shared some of the hiccups, Satish, but would love to know what were the key learnings also that you observed over a period of time.
So I think one of it is that though it seems very easy to say this and very difficult to follow is at the end of the day, you can only do so much, right? And you have to kind of surrender to the larger universe to make things happen because uh, you know I mean, it's very, very rare to find people who will like to work with your speed or will like to work with your passion onto a project, right? Everyone have their own life, everyone have their own priorities. So, let's say if I want something to be done today, you cannot really expect the other person to follow suit. I mean, until unless he's a completely employed by you and has nothing else to do. And even there, I think today it's very difficult to manage employees also, right? So yeah, so I think ultimately there's only so much that you can do, and you have to leave a part of it to the larger universe to make things happen for you. I mean, indeed, what I always realized that uh, universe is always making things better for you, and it is not making things for you to fail, right? You just trust the process. I think that's my core learning. The other one obviously is uh, you have to keep believing in your conviction because uh, I think, I mean, like last week, I was just having a discussion with a fellow entrepreneur, and I think we discussed that it's all about the tenacity as an entrepreneur, right? Sometimes you have to hit the nail 10 times to break through that ceiling, right? And sometimes you have to
Absolutely.
keep believing that every time I hit on a nail, I will go on and go to the next step, whereas it might not happen. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs give up on seventh or eighth time, right? It's not easy to keep trying to keep following up, to keep saying that okay, my idea will work, my idea will work. So again, it's a question of tenacity. It's a question of how much long can you sustain and trying to build it till the time you hit that uh, critical volume, and your idea picks up from there on, right? Obviously, there is also an element of luck into it. You cannot deny that, right? I mean, you have to be at the right time at right place for things to really fall in place. But you have to keep trying till then. You have to keep that conviction with you. Uh, Thirdly, I think it's always better to be vulnerable, right? I do not believe in to fake it till you make it, right? I think you always should be frank. You always should be telling people that this is how I'm doing it. This is how the kind of problems that I'm facing. Because I believe that if you ask for help and if your intention is good, you will end up getting help that you need, right? I think that's a very important learning, and I think that is why they say that entrepreneurship teaches you to be humble, right? I think that's a very big learning, and that's a very big experience that ones get while they're trying to build something on their own, because you realize that you may not have your agency over anyone else for a very very long time, right? You may be anyone because others may have other priorities, right? So you may be just one of the person trying to vying for their attention, right? And you do not remain entitled when you're an entrepreneur, right? You have to kind of give it yourself and say that okay, boss, this is what I'm trying to build. You have to set a very large vision in that sense, right? And then I think fourth is you should also realize that eventually when is the time to give up, right? I think that's also an equally important lesson, because like for example with Catapult, I know that I was running that venture for 5 years. I had brought it to a scale, and then I realized that maybe after that it will become difficult because of let's say regulatory issues, all the market being not ready, right? And that's when I decided, okay, maybe now is the time that I should do other things in my life. I've already given 5 years of my life to it, and let other people take it up, right? And which is why I decided, okay, let it get acqui-hired. I'm okay with that. I will get my own freedom, and I will be able to use that learning experience to build other ventures down the line or to work with other places, right? So I think these were some of the key learnings that I could talk.
Wow, these are actually deep. Thank you so much, Satish, for sharing that. Uh, okay, so can you share, Satish, based on your observation, 5 things that you feel an entrepreneur must have?
Hmm. Um, One is, I think, an entrepreneur should not what should I think he should be the adult in the room, right? Which means that, while we entrepreneurs, while we fall in love with our ideas, we should always stay grounded, right? We should not forget what the reality in, right? I mean, I may be having a good idea, and but the market may not be liking that idea. I mean, the market may not be ready for that idea, right? Or I may not have prepared well for that idea at the current given stage, right? So yes, while it is important to fall in love with your idea, but also stay grounded and always keep pivoting accordingly, right? Always keep uh, hearing what the market is trying to tell you, right? I think that's a very very critical thing for an entrepreneur. Second, I think is an issue of you have to, as I said, you have to build a hard skin, because and this hard skin is not about uh, understanding that how others will react to you, understanding that how you will beat your own fears, right? Because this journey, you will have a lot of places where you will feel that whether what I'm doing next is the right thing, whether this risk that I'm taking is worth taking or not taking, right? So there are a lot of places that this hard skin is required, right, for you to kind of keep moving on that whole pace. Uh, Third thing is, I think it's also you have to build that muscle of trust, right? Because if you don't trust, you will not delegate, and if you don't delegate, you will not grow beyond the point, right? So you have to trust your team, you have to trust your co-founders, you have to trust your investors, and you have to trust the market, right? Because these are the guys, who may not be working as you thought they are working, but ultimately they are working for your own benefit, right? And you have to give that confidence to them. You have to give the control to them also, so that they also bring in their whole value in the venture that you're building, right? So I think that's the third thing which I feel is quite critical. Fourth is, I think, do not stop having fun, right? I mean, it's not the destination, it's the journey that matters. End of the day, right? So don't get too serious of life, right? I think failures will come, things will not move as per your pace. You will go through a lot of tough times. Entrepreneurship is not an easy journey, right? But then at the end of it, I think keep learning, keep working at it. I think if your intent is right, I think things will work out some way or the other, right? I mean, you may not reach X, but you will at least reach X minus two, and I think that's good enough, right? And ultimately, and I think that's what life is all about. You do not have to overstress or become over serious about something, right? And I think fifth, I would say, it's do not uh, compromise yourself, right? Because entrepreneurship can be a very training journey, right? But that doesn't mean that you compromise your health for it, or you compromise your family for it, right? Because I think those are also equally critical part of your life, right? Because if today your health is not good, what's the whole point of building an empire? Right? So a lot of people do that. A lot of people avoid their health. They try to work for long number of hours, totally avoiding what they're doing with their bodies. Right? I think that's not the right practice. Right? I think you have to kind of keep it balanced. Right? And I think understand that money and entrepreneurship success are not the only parameters of wealth. Right? There are other parameters of wealth also that you need to kind of build on in your life.
First of all, thank you so much, Satish. These five things I personally feel I was able to relate a lot, and definitely all the people who are listening to this particular episode, even they would connect. And yes, if you are connecting, do share us in the comment how you felt about it, because the next question, my dear listeners, is going to be really, really interesting. So, Satish, how uh, has being as an entrepreneur changed you as a person?
Oh, um, I think it has been a huge change and a huge impact, right? So, as I said, you become humble, you become lot more patient. You lose that you lose that sense of being entitled, right? And I think you also grow stronger somewhere because you get better at becoming a salesperson, right? Because you have to keep repeating and keep winning at selling your ideas, selling your concepts across multiple stakeholders, right? Be it your employees, be it your investors, be it your market, etc., etc. I think it's a journey where you learn everything new on a daily basis, right? It's a roller coaster ride. There are highs and there are lows every day, and I think you learn to kind of maintain that sanity even while on edge. I think that's how it changes you. And I think I think I've not learned totally. There are times when I give in. There are times when I get impatient also. There are times when I also have my own N6 attacks. But that's okay. I think everyone is here, and I think every day you are learning something new, right? You have to keep at it. I mean, I think that's all it's all about.
Absolutely. I totally connect with you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Satish. So, as an investor and as a fundraiser, what's your take
Yeah.
on the increase in startup? What's the success rate?
No, I think interestingly, as a country, India, we have gone through interesting cycles of investments, right? There have been periods of fraud where people have just dump their money to just the world of startup. No matter how that money was being used, or no matter if the founders were able to understand how to better use this money, and which is why you see a lot of stories today of large startups which were able to raise billions at a time are now almost struggling to even sustain their basic operations, right? Because investors have also become more sensible now. They have also understood what works and what doesn't work, right? But I think I think overall, I think it's a very positive trend, right? Because eventually after a lot of money, people have now started realizing the value of that money, they have started understanding that it is not necessarily the growth that matters, but it is the profitability and the sustainability of the operations that matters more. Right? They've also understood that money can't buy markets. Right? It doesn't work that way. That no matter how much money you throw in the market, people will start buying your product or consumers will start throwing money at you. It doesn't work that way. Ultimately, your product has to be good to give you consumers. It doesn't depend on the money that you have raised as such. Right. So I think, and today I think the entrepreneurs which are coming out, the investors that are coming out, there are a lot of investors who have burned their fingers with a lot of issues, be it the issue of how the funds are managed, be it the issues of post-investment governance, right? So there are a lot of issues like these which they've burned their hands on. They've learned their lessons. They are now built that processes. I think so. The market has evolved. The market has matured, and I think this is overall good for the whole startup ecosystem as such.
Got it. Got it. So, Satish, based on your being a serial entrepreneur, is there a success portion to establish a business, like the magic portion?
I don't think so, Mithil. I think every entrepreneur, every venture will have its own journey, right? And I think there is no one single magic potion or one single factor which can give you success. Because if that was the answer, I think most of us would have already found it by so far, right? Because as I
Absolutely.
said, I think it's I mean, it's both. It's serendipity also. It's luck also. It's hard work also. It's ever evolving learning also. Right. So there are a lot of components I think which go into this magic potion. Right. You need to have a right team at the right place. Right. You need to. I mean, So I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be an expert juggler, right? And you have to throw these multiple balls in the air and hope that none of the balls slips away, right? Because that is how the journey is every day. I mean, that is how we live every day, and we have to just keep juggling these balls and hope that none of the ball, falls away. Because then you have to again restart from the scratch, right? So, and we all of us, I guess, we keep facing these challenges. At one point in time, yeah, we will get the funding, the technology will go bad. One day the technology is going good, the market will go bad, right? So we always have to, we always keep, and always keep dousing the small fires, right? And I think along the journey, the scale becomes bigger, the teams become bigger, the success keeps coming in bits and parts. I think it's a journey. I think it's, again, as I said, it's not a destination, right? You cannot say that, okay, after 1 year, after I've applied this portion, I will get this, and that's the end of it. No, that's not the answer. The answer is that it's a journey which I think you will take to the grave with you.
Absolutely, absolutely, Satish. Yes, I totally agree with you. That's not a single portion, and definitely, if it would have been easy, everyone would have done it. So definitely, this journey is a marathon and not a sprint.
Right.
Thank you so much, Satish. And before we end this particular episode, what is the message that you would like to give to our community members as well as to all the listeners of this show?
Yeah, no, I think I will always say that keep believing in the conviction, right? And if your ideas are justified by some ground realities, go ahead and do it, right? I think see, I will it will not be easy being an entrepreneur, right? And you will definitely face so many hurdles, but I think that's the beauty of creating something new. I think that's the beauty of leaving behind the legacy of building something new. Otherwise, if you think that that's not your calling, then I mean there are other non-entrepreneurial jobs out there. Go ahead, and I'm not saying that they are bad. They also give you a lot of opportunities for growth. But if you decide to become an entrepreneur, then come with that hard skin, learn every day, be open-minded, and just keep believing in yourself.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Satish, to have you here and share your journey with us. Definitely, these lessons were really strong. And I hope that all the community members as well as the listeners do get a lot of golden nuggets from this. Thank you. Thank you so much, Satish.
Thank you, Mithil, and it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome.
Bye.
So you have just listened to the I Support Your Business show with your host Mithil. Thank you so much for listening to our show and giving so much love. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on the podcast platform that you are listening to. And if you're watching this on YouTube, do subscribe to our channel. This is your host Mithil signing off at the moment. Until next time, meet you soon with another community member and their exciting story. But until then, keep rocking, stay safe, and don't forget to keep creating content. Ciao.